And we are live. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vault of Midnight's Book of the Month Club. We, every month, host a different book as our Book of the Month, and then we all discuss it. At the end of every month, our favorite things about it, things we wish were different about it. We talk about the creators. And overall, we just sip tea and look pompous and feel good about ourselves because we're part of a book club. I am Caleb. I am at Ann Arbor Vault of Midnight, and I am joined today by a couple of guests. Who do we have here? Hey, Carly, how about we jump to you first?
Hi, I'm Carly. I do...
Oh, looks like Carly may have frozen up on us a bit. Hey, Lex, do you want to give yourself an introduction while Carly figures out her connection?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lex. I work at the Grand Rapids Vault of Midnight.
Alex, do we have Carly? Carly, are you here?
Yes, sorry, it said I was connected, but you guys were not able to hear me. Sorry about that.
No, how's it going?
Give yourself a quick intro.
All right, I work at the Ann Arbor store. I do head of manga there. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm happy to be here.
All right. So if you have never joined us before, nope, we want to go here. If you have never joined us before for a book club, it is pretty simple. We're just going to be hanging out and discussing this month's book, The New World by ALES KOT and Alice,
I think.
ALES KOT and Trad Moore. And also Heather Moore, Clayton Cowles, and Tom Mueller. But this is this month's book. It is incredible. It is visually out of this world. The story itself takes elements from a lot of classical stories and tropes that we have seen, but blends them all together in a mix that is almost as fantastical as the artwork itself. I absolutely love this book. I have rarely encountered one that is so visually abstract yet narrative based. It was really cool to see that. It gave a really cool feeling of this world is very different from ours, but is rooted in things we know and is sort of changing and is different, amorphous. I don't know. I loved it. I guess we can start with just sort of broad feelings about the book. Lex, what did you think?
I'm a huge Tradmore fan, as you can see by every Tradmore book behind me. This book is like so many different things, so many references, so many like ideas that we're all like pretty familiar with as far as like what the future is going to be like and what people want. And it is so visually stunning and so incredible and so unique, but also it's a love story. And I think that's what I love about it the most, is at its core, it's just a love story. It's just a really good rom-com in the middle of this action visual cacophony you get.
Carly, what are your thoughts?
Same here, definitely with the romance portion of it I liked. I remember writing down about how all the wild and bright colors they use to represent violence throughout the story. Kind of like how blood and guts are drawn like confetti, which kind of helped the reader and kind of the world realize how much is desensitized to the violence and the corruption that's going on. And overall, the whole story just makes you want to dismantle the patriarchy and then snuggle.
Exactly that.
That's pretty great. No, that's a good point that I hadn't thought about. The sort of stylization and beautiful way that the violence, the gory, horrific violence in some parts is depicted, sort of standing for the kind of sensationalization and desensitization of those horrible things. That's a good take I hadn't considered.
Yeah, even the language in the book lends itself to that by using a lot of like 2000s to 2015 like isms, like Step Brothers quotes and stuff like that. Just like how people would wish, like how we use words from the 70s, like people using words from like now, just to stylize it even more is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, near the end of it, there was a particularly gruesome fight, and I remembered stopping and looking at the way the blood was drawn, how it was all symmetrical dots, all sort of in a grid that were like
Yes.
compulsing. It was. I stopped and I was like, "Oh, that must be part of the attack." And I was like, "No, that's like the blood spatter from the." But it was so elegantly drawn.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing takes place inside a lava lamp almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that's kind of the way Treadmore does all of their art. Is it's all so lanky and long and wavy, and then they can do tight spots too, and it's really really cool. So just a great story from start to finish, and not very long. Recently been optioned for a movie. There's a script going around, which is exciting.
Really?
Nuh-uh. There
Yeah.
I
is?
didn't know that.
Yeah, this and Luther Strode are both being optioned right now. So
Wow.
I
yeah.
would love that.
Okay.
Yeah, especially like how it's kind of a movie. It's basically reading a movie. You know,
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
this huge first section that's like all set up in character intros, and it's filmed like a movie. And Caleb, I was actually reading your notes. We have the same favorite moment, which is the moment I show when someone's like, "What is this book about?" I just show them that 2-page spread of them locking eyes in the club for the first time, and it's just
so
like
beautiful.
it's the best page of the entire book, and it's just so good because it sums it all up. Like it's about them, and it's so
it more than just it's about them. It's about these two finding each other in the middle of this chaos because they're at a rave that's like a citywide rave.
Yes.
He asked for the address, and it was like, it's Long Beach. Long Beach is the address of the rave, and they're just going crazy. But there's this moment where in the middle of it, they find each other, and nothing else matters. And then the next page is this beautiful swirl of just them seeing each other and moving. And so effective. Yeah, I stopped on that page for like 5 minutes, just like, let me just take all of this in.
And like let's set up the world. I mean, it does take place in the future.
Yeah.
There's been a second Civil War, and we're years beyond that. There's a new California that's architecturally incredible.
Yeah.
Ruled by this new president. And so basically what America is now is just this huge section of California and a little bit farther. And it's a police state.
Yeah. It's a police country.
Yeah. It's the #1 show on television is a police show. And
yeah, that stylized version of Cops, which was a very real TV show and I think still might be wildly popular. So why wouldn't that be the natural progression of things?
yeah,
Why
Carly.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, is that show still running? Cops itself?
I don't know.
Okay, I was thinking it's probably gone. And then I think what you guys were getting to was the big twist, obviously, for this one is once these cops catch criminals right on the bat, instead of having a jury or a case of any of the sort, it's the viewers get to decide whether they will be erased, which is they will be killed on air, or arrested. And that part is so sick to me, but also feels like a very real potential future at the same time. What won't we do for great viewership?
And yeah, speaking of the cop show and the living and erasing, like Carly, talk about Stella. I mean, that seems like a character that's so relatable.
Yeah.
And Stella in this era, she is one of the most popular cops on the show, but she is most well known for no matter what the viewership votes, she will never kill people. And that's how she sees herself in a better light at the same point too, which she brings up later in the book, being like, I thought I was a good person just because I didn't kill people.
Yeah. Just because I did the bare minimum.
Yeah, right.
I consider myself better than everyone else.
Which in her worldview at the time, she thought was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Until we get Kirby.
And it does present these worldviews as very like real, honest, very quick. Like this is exactly what happened to this person. This is what they're going through, and this is how they work through it. And you do that with so many different characters in the book all at once. It just is so smooth.
Yeah,
Also,
every character that was introduced felt like a full and complete character, and it was really well done. I wanted to know more about everybody.
Yeah.
Carly, you were going to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to introduce a little bit more about Kirby as Stella's love interest.
Yeah, please do.
So Kirby, we first get a glimpse of him and his hacker abilities when he gets into the reality studio where the cop show is produced and edited and such. And then he puts out his big hacking message of, essentially, screw the police. Like
Smash the police.
they are turning us into monsters. And That's all before she even gets to meet him in the club. And we already know the basics. He's vegan. He's straight edge. He will repeat telling you that as well, just like every good vegan and straight edge will do. It is their duty.
Yeah, a vegan, straight edge, anarchistic rebel hacker.
Mm-hmm.
What's not to love, right?
Exactly.
And I just want to point out the fake name that he gives to get into the streaming studio is Loki. He says Loki Lahar.
Yep.
Yep.
I thought that was so cool.
You know what? He probably thought it was really cool too.
Right?
And he just gets
That's a
away with
character.
it. He just gets into the club because he's the best hacker, and they thought he was the best. So they were like, "Yeah, that's amazing." It's so funny. It's so good.
Also, he ironically wears an eye patch, correct? Like he doesn't need one.
Yeah, he wears it like up. All the time. It's a fashion statement.
I love
It's
that.
about fashion.
Yeah, it's funny because the eye patch is how they find him too. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
he's the only person who wears an eye patch.
Yeah, no, the family dynamics for both of the main characters were something that I found very interesting. Lex, do you want to kind of run over what they both go home to?
Yeah, so they meet at this rave, and things happen, and so they both go home. They go home, and Kirby goes home to his veteran father, who is an alcoholic, which is established in 18 different text bubbles in that first page. But it's like something they're both okay with, and they like.
He's a functioning alcoholic.
Exactly, and so they just immediately love each other. It's a great father-son relationship where it's very loving and they're very honest with each other because they've been through so much. Actually, I think I have the variant of them together.
I was going to ask, do you have the single issues of this book?
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, there's little Kirby with his dad and his mom.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
for, I think, chapter 3 in the trade paperback.
Yeah, it's incredible. So there's just a very loving relationship, which I think is very important. And then Stella goes home to her father, who happens to be the president.
Grandfather.
Grandfather, who is the president and wants to kill people on TV. And then Carly, talk about Stella's apartment because it seems very, very great.
Stella's apartment is one of my favorite bits. So Stella has their own apartment. I imagine it's paid for by Grandpa and all that big money. And there's nobody at the apartment. It is a messy old place. It's really just meant for sleeping. It's not meant for staying long periods. But Stella does have the company of her very fat cat. It's Godzilla, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, fat cat Godzilla. And her AI, who helps her, run her home, helps with the chores and the dishes. And Godzilla and our AI do not get along, but we love it so much. Because I don't ever expect, once technology takes over, that our cats will be so easy to adjust to this lifestyle. And also speaking on the fact of the AI also, is because we are so far ahead into the future and people are more connected to technology, Stella is one of the people out there who they can connect to their AI through a little chip that they have in their head, which helps them access to all the great technology that they have. And it's also how she gets in contact, like that's her cell phone, everything's all in her head. And it's around this point too, where when she finds out about the rave and goes out partying, that Joe, who is the guy at the studio, who is kind of like her main little manager, he keeps track of her this way as well. Her eyes are his webcam. And that's how he protects her, but also reports everything she does back to Grandfather.
So messed up.
Yeah.
Isn't it, though?
So
Especially because, and what Caleb was mentioning earlier about how every character introduced does get some form of story. Even Joe. And Joe's just like, he's a simple guy. He's like an IT guy. He has a family. He has kids he has to put through college. And even though this is kind of a messed up position, he's got to do it.
Yeah.
To put money on the table type thing. Put food on the table.
You put money on the table.
Yeah, you can put money on the table.
We've got a quick question in the comments from Heather Ortiz asking about the book. Just sort of a general, what book is this? The book is The New World. And if you want to know in one sentence what it's like, it is imagine Mad Max meets Romeo and Juliet with a dash of Black Mirror thrown in.
That's pretty accurate.
It's very accurate, yes.
It's stunning.
Also, hi, Heather.
Hello, Heather.
Hi,
The artwork, as you can see, is stunning. It is these beautiful, abstract sort of splash pages of just amazing psychedelic lava lampness, right? Like that's the only way I can describe. Yeah, here's a great little couple panels that show some of this amazing, real freaky artwork. Yeah, it's fantastic. Highly recommend checking it out.
It's our book of the month, so it's 15% off at all Vault of Midnights this month.
Including the web store, Vault of
Including the web
Midnight.
store.
You can get
I
the
always
book
forget
off
it's on the web store too.
What's that?
Oh, I always forget that it's on the web store too.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't checked it out, definitely do. It is stunning and the story is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yes, Carly, back to your point, I do not foresee the peaceful coexistence of AI and cats. I don't think they will be so easily subdued.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we can't even get Roombas to cooperate with our pets. So
True.
I cannot wait. That's the part of the future that I can't wait for. It'll be fun. I don't think I want my cell phone in my head, but I would love to have a better friendship with my phone or computer.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they really are friends at the towards
They
the end of the
are.
book. Yeah, it's very sweet.
And then, so after we get to meet, our AI, we get to meet the big fat cat Godzilla. That's when we go to the rave, and that's where we finally get to see these two find each other through the smallest window of people and have their first dance together and just instantly connect and then have sexy time.
Yep. And then they go home, and that's when that's the page. That's the page.
This is the page. It's them noticing each other from a. Hang on, let me go full here.
Ooh, nice.
It's just this stunning cacophony of beautiful colors and light, and then they find each other.
Yeah.
And then
Watch that other page.
Yep. No, let's rattle on the side here. Yeah, no, this moment where you can see them all making their way through the crowd to get to each other, and then the electricity, the sort of world they create with each other where nothing else matters. Yeah, it's stunning.
And then unfortunately, we have the next morning, which reveals that he is next on her hit list for the reality show.
Yeah, Kirby and his dad sit down to watch some TV, and the announcement of the next big, huge, multicultural event is hunting him to the death.
Yeah.
There's another great character development moment kind of hidden in that big reveal, and it's the discussion between Kirby and his dad, where Kirby's sitting down and he's like, "Hey, so this guy, Logan Maximus, he's the one that always kills me." He's like asking questions, which shows he doesn't watch the show. He's not following what's happening, which is why he didn't recognize Stella before. And it seems like this is like the first time he's really showing an interest. He's like, okay, all right, let me check this out. So this guy, he's like the kill guy, and then his dad's like, oh yeah, but he's nothing like Stella. She's this and this. And he goes, oh, she's still a cop, ACAB. They say it in the book. And then it shows that the ACAB he was talking about is the woman that he just slept with the night before and is in love with. So it's a beautiful moment of like, he doesn't care about all this stuff until, it's the only thing he can care about.
Yeah. Do you want to switch our cameras back?
Oh, that's right. We're not on camera anymore. Caleb is such a camera hog.
This is a Caleb show.
I enjoyed it. I was having a good time, and I was just like, maybe I should say something. It's that inciting incident where everything hits the fan, and the book hits this break because you've been moving kind of quickly up to this point, and hits this break where it's like, what do you do now? And I had to wait a month to find out, but you can just read straight ahead of the graphic novel.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that has stuck with me since I read it. This yes, because the colors are so abstract and beautiful and everything so gooey and bulbousy, it makes it feel very fantasy, but the story that's being told is so horrifically close to what's probably going to happen that it has this foreboding sense of like, yeah, wasn't that silly? Wasn't it? That's so silly.
And the whole point of it is again, it's a love story. You know, the whole point of it is it's a love story. It's just, it sticks with me, and it's full of references. So like, I guarantee the first time you read it, you'll spot something and be like, oh, that's from X movie or Y movie or Z show or D book. Like even Stella's helmet. There's another graphic novel called New World that's older, and her helmet is just a helmet from that book because it's the same title.
Lex, we've got Paloma in the comments saying that the display you've got behind you is just superb. Do you want to sort of give a rundown of what you've got behind you there?
Yeah. So I have so many Tradmore covers. I've been collecting Trad's work since like 2007, 2008, when his first book, Strange Talent, came out. And then he married his wife, Heather, which is why this book also works, is it's a married couple doing the art and colors together on a love story. Yeah. And so anything they do, I collect. I mean, Trad's done Silver Surfer Black for Marvel. You know, Justice League covers, crossover covers, X-Men covers, Vote Loki, which is what the new Marvel show is based off of, or has some elements from. Okay. Vote Loki 1 through 4 are Tradmore covers, and Vote Loki 1 is like $100.
That makes it even more fun that Kirby's fake name is Loki.
That's because cool. he was secretly working on Vote Loki at that time. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what is it about Tradmore that draws you to him?
Well, I'm 6'6" and weigh like $120. So Trad draws characters that look like me, which is, you know what I mean? They're long and lengthy. Actually, this is a Tradmore hoodie that he did.
Of course it is.
You came so prepared for this book club.
I did. He did a Fortnite loading screen, I guess. And they made a Fortnite hoodie, and I was like, bye. It's just the colors and the artistry and the range. I mean, he did Venom 300 or Venom 200, 250. Venom 250. He has like a huge story in. That's incredible. He did Batman Black and White issue 1 from this new series. Opens with a Tradmore story. He just got good range, and his wife is so lovely, and they're so nice.
Have you gotten to meet them in person at like a convention?
No, he doesn't have like a social media presence. He only has a Tumblr where he posts.
Oh, okay.
He posts HD art on his Tumblr, which is awesome. All of his covers and sketches and stuff he just uploads in HD that you can check out if you want to see how real tight. Because every line you see is probably first attempt or second attempt because he can do such tight lines. But yeah, it's just the colors. It's really the colors and the art and the love. And so I collect them all. I just love them so much.
There you go. Let's see. Let's actually look at our question prompt list and see if there's anything from there we want to talk about.
Fine.
I was actually thinking too, because my two thoughts were corresponding. First off, Lex clearly does not have a cat because everything is set up so nicely behind you, and you're at home. So that means, yes, great organization. And which kind of pertains to one of the questions that I had for what surprised you. What's one of the things that surprised you about the book? And for me, it was that Stella went back for her cat.
Yeah,
I was
really cool.
So happy about that. I wrote, it just seems like whenever people have to hit the road quick or run away from something, there's never any closure about their animals or anything that's brought up in the past. I am happy that she was retrieved because just because you're on the run from the law doesn't mean that you're not still a cat parent.
Right.
You still have responsibilities.
It's like Stella said, Godzilla is just an absolute unit. And she had to go back. And it was cool because it was like the thing that it was an entire issue was, okay, issue 4, we got to get the cat.
We got to get the cat back.
We got to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm into it. Let's do it. Issue 4. Let's get this cat.
Yeah. No, that also really lends itself to Stella's character development because if you think about it, Stella only has, before Stella meets Kirby, only has one physical other living being that she loves and feels love from. And that is this cat. Her grandfather is the head of a fascist state that he's basically pleading with her to kill people on live camera every single day.
Yeah.
She's not super into that, so I'm sure there's not a great connection there.
Her AI shows her more love than her own grandfather.
I was going to say her next closest relationship is her AI system, which she has a great relationship with, and actually ignores a direct command from its programmer when saying, I authorize you, as the person who owns you, I authorize you to override any command given by Stella. And Val's like, sorry, no, Stella's my best friend. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
That was a great moment in that.
Yeah.
So all she has since the loss of her parents is Godzilla. So I loved that she was like, yeah, we can tear this whole system down from the inside out and destroy the world, but I got to get my cat first.
Yes.
Yeah.
A true G, real priorities.
Absolutely. Yes. What about you guys? What were some parts that surprised you? Doesn't have to be like the big surprise, because like I said, this was just a small one for me.
Yeah.
But like just other things that made you go, they normally don't do that in stories, or something that stuck with you.
I liked seeing something I didn't expect, something I didn't think was needed, but really added another level of, like we've been saying, of rounded character development for even side characters, is the relationship between Logan Maximus and Kirby's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Maximus is, for the entire book, shown to be, or for the entire story, shown to be the #1 ruthless police officer killer. If you need a job done, it's him, and he will get it done. And he's just this brutal thing. And once he encounters Kirby's dad, who is this very, toss me another beer. Ha ha, wouldn't it be funny if your kombucha robot made me beer all day? Ha ha ha, let's hang out. But it reveals this sordid past of like, yes, he's an alcoholic dad. We've seen that trope in a million things, but he's a vet. He, as you learn, turned away from some really important things that he was doing, has done some great things in his past, ushering people in and out in this underground tunnel that they were working on. And he was working with Logan Maximus, but they went completely different ways. And now Logan Maximus murders people on TV, and Kirby's dad is just sitting there drinking himself to death because of some of the choices he's had to make. Yeah, I thought that relationship between them, when it was real, I was like, wow, I didn't think I needed to know more about Kirby's dad or about Logan, but here is this amazing connection and this in-depth world that these two have had already.
And they have their moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They resolve their issues.
Yeah.
I just love all the references. I mean, Kirby's dad wears glasses from another comic book.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's referencing another thing. I mean, the cat's named Godzilla. Like, everything is a reference to another thing, and all that exists is the media and the police state.
Which even Kirby's name, Kirby Miyazaki, is two pop culture references.
Yeah. I mean, everyone is. It paints this world that you're like, oh, that's now.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, I named my son after the Goblin King from Labyrinth. Oh no, I did it. You know, like, it's
because we communicate to each other with shared experiences. With, hey, we watched this same thing growing up. Let's reference it to fit this, and that's how we connect to people. Is, did we have a similar upbringing? Did you watch the same shows I did?
Yeah.
And so that culture will inevitably lead itself to what we see in the book, where every single thing is a reference. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and it does it so seamlessly, you know, like in a Blade Runner movie, you're spending like 3 hours just learning about dirt alleyways, you know what I mean? Just to paint this world. And this this paints the entire world in 3 pages. The first 3 pages, you know, everything you need to know about the entire world, and you just get to just live in it. And it's really cool.
It leaves you wanting more without leaving you feeling like you're missing something.
It's very cyberpunky. It's its own thing. Like, I feel like, you know, it's the new world.
Oh wow! Hey, that must be why they called it that.
Yeah, I did it.
You said it,
I think you just winged it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, just sort of looking to see if there's anything in my notes here that really, I mean, obviously the great big event at the end. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it's really an Emperor has no clothes moment at the end that is just this like curtain reveal, and your jaw drops, and you're like, wow.
And then it's over.
The whole country, whole state is like, oh, I don't want to say too much.
Let's leave some of it to the imagination.
Yeah, exactly. It is amazing.
The lesson.
Barbara Clark is watching. Hello, Barbara. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, Barbara.
The lesson of the book and the lessons of the book as they stack up as you read it. So good. And I also love the realistic characters. You know, they're not, I mean, everything in this book is pretty, but I would say that like the characters are not perfect model-like characters. You know, everyone's got a little bit of flavor and they feel realistic and fit these like easily adaptable, relatable people. I mean, even Kirby's friends who are just three random dudes, you would think are these three fleshed out, wonderful characters, powerful, unique people.
Also working to overthrow. They're all this like group of hackers trying to make this underground internet. Yeah, you feel like you know them. 10 panels total, maybe.
Have you all read any other books by ALES KOT?
I haven't actually.
No, I don't think so.
Really, really talented writer. Wrote Days of Hate, which is a great 12-issue series. A ton of other works. Obviously, Trad's done a bunch of stuff, but ALES also does great work. The letters and flatters in this book are also incredible. They do a lot of behind-the-scenes work. You don't often talk about letterers, but the lettering in this book is also incredible.
It's the vibe of the world that's been made.
Yeah, just the use. And Trad does a lot of work through onomatopoeias and stuff like that because it does feel like a comic book. But the letter is really just the way that the things flow together and conversations flow together, how we talk naturally, instead of being like, here's my exposition, here's my monologue, here's my soliloquy. It's, you say a thing, I say a thing, you say a thing, I say a thing, very quickly flying with the art. Just,
Here's some of that onomatopoeia. This is the splash page, and it's just so much going on.
Have y'all read Prism Stalker?
I looked at that.
No.
I have seen it, and I am very interested. I haven't had a chance to read it, though, because my list of things to read is 1,000 book long.
Yeah, at the end of issue 2, there's a preview for it, which is how I remembered it. Prism Stalker is by Sloan Long, who's like an incredible artist. Trad did a pinup for Prism Stalker, which is how I heard about it.
Okay.
And so they did stuff back and forth with New World. So Sloan Long actually did a New World cover for issue 4.
Oh, very cool.
Which I have somewhere.
Yeah, sure. No one does that.
Sloan also did Map to the Sun, which is like a young, all ages, like a young adult book about like a girls basketball team.
Oh, cool.
Which I think we have at all vaults, and that's like a colorful, gorgeous book. It's just so gorgeous. Also, fun fact: Trad Moore and Donnie Cates went to college together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's how they got to do Silver Surfer Black.
That's awesome.
So and that's why Trad did a crossover cover, which I have up there.
Okay.
Did this remind you of any other books that you've read? Like, as far as like if you could compare it to something?
Artistically, no. I can't compare it to anything. Storyline-wise, obviously, I was reminded of its sources, Romeo and Juliet, cyberpunk, sort of dystopian future, high tech, but also highly regimented. But I coming from a theater background, was just a lot of what I saw was Romeo and Juliet, how it should have ended, was like taking that classic story of, because it in the beginning of the story, it syncs up really well to, that establishes both of these characters are in separate worlds that are meant to be opposing to each other. And then at a big party, they see each other. It's love at first sight. They hook up. And then the following morning, everything goes to hell. And it's taking Romeo and Juliet and saying, yeah, but what if instead of two like 14-year-olds who fall in love and then kill themselves for it, what if instead of that, it's a love story about two people who are star-crossed lovers, who find each other against all odds, and then persevere, and then fight to make it work. And even though everything says they shouldn't be together, they won't accept that as an answer. There's that beautiful moment after Kirby has found out, when they see that he is Stella's next target, and he, in that same moment, finds out that the woman he is now in love with is a police officer for this show. He has to deal with all of this. He ends up getting knocked out, I believe. And so when he wakes up, it's his dad and Stella in this little seedy motel room. And he's like, did you kidnap her? And he goes, no. She stuck you in the car and then forced us to drive away. She blows up Logan Maximus and then quits the police force on live TV and then gets in their car and drives away. And there's this stunning moment that had me like stop reading the book and just stare at it, of when he goes into the bathroom where she's like fixing herself up. Oh, looks like we got it right here. Yes. And he just says, why me? And she says, I don't know. Because that's love. They saw each other, they felt it, and it's like, why did you give everything? Why did you give your whole life up for me? And she goes, I couldn't tell you. And they just hold each other. And then after the embrace, eyes closed, fully embracing, then you see her open her eyes and like process what she's doing and why she's doing it. Oh my God. It was so powerful and so beautiful. That's tied for my favorite part. That and when they first see each other is when they first interact after they know everything they know. Sorry, I don't remember what the question was. I got a little carried away there.
No, that moment is one of my favorites. I was actually pulling it down, and then you started talking about it, and I was like, oh, this works out.
And it still matched up with what you were asking, because you said what was about this that reminded you of other books. And
yeah, that's right.
yeah, and pretty much the same exact thing. Not the storyline itself, but the kind of just like effortless way the two ended up together. It reminded me of Sex Criminals, actually, in that aspect, where you do have two people that are kind of against a system going on here. It's effortless that they're together now, but they had to work towards getting to this place that they're at finally. And also kind of with, I didn't know personally if they were going to stay together at the end, because Stella's mindset, I think, was let the world know what's going on.
Too much.
What's that?
Let's be careful not to spoil too much.
Oh, right. It just seemed like Stella's mindset was kind of self-preservation. Well, she's going to protect her family now. Like we said earlier, she's going to get that cat back. She's going to stick with Kirby. She's going to make sure his dad's okay. Yeah. And then we have Kirby, who he saw himself as a fighter. He wants to not just, well, once we let the world know what's going on, let's go further. Let's dismantle every form of the patriarchy that we can get to at this point. Whereas Stella, like I said earlier, she's just more like, I want to protect the people I have, and I want to not spend my life fighting, which I think are definitely two things that obviously even in today's day we're talking about right now. Yeah. Like there's so much we have to do, but then also where do you get to a point where you need to take a step back as well? Yeah. For your own self-worth. Yeah.
Especially since Stella's in line to be the next president, you know, like that's.
Oh, I never even. Yeah.
She's the heir, so she has to like do that. You know, at some point she's supposed to just run the country. Yeah. Which is a lot of pressure. On top of not killing people, I guess. Yeah.
There's this intense part where I mentioned earlier about how her little phone in her head is controlled by or monitored by Joe, just one of the simple guys that works at the production studio who reports everything.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on him.
Yes. So one of my scenes I liked too was when they go to get Godzilla the cat back, Joe is holding Godzilla with a gun to the kitty's head. First off, you know he's not going to shoot. He's not that kind of person. Yeah. But she says, "How could you betray me?" And he goes, "You're an absolute brat. Rich people don't get friends."
Yeah.
And I think, I think that was her turning point as well, when she was like, "Oh my God, he's right. I am a brat."
I thought I at least had like a friend on the inside, but no, I am just this thing. Yeah.
I mean, she was kind of using him in the same way of like she like used an AI as like a tool. She used him like a Google search. She would say, Joe, find me a great party to go to. Or Joe, let Grandpa know I'm going to be late for something of that sort. And it's kind of, she didn't know anything about him besides the favors that he did for her. And that's when we finally start to see him as a character too. But everybody can change. I mean, what is she supposed to do from the get-go as a child? Say, no, Grandpa, I'm going to fight the system. I'm 8 years old. I'm not going to do what you tell me. Like, no, everybody was molded by a certain system. And it's once we get to a certain point that we can break free of that we can start to make some real change.
And in regards to Joe, touching back on how beautifully every character in this book is created, at first, that's all we see him as, is just a guy behind the computer. He's working for the bigwigs. He's the middleman kind of tech guy that's just this spineless, do whatever the boss man tells him. He ends up with the gun to the cat's head, and you're like, wow, this guy is just a scummy, skeezy corporate whatever. But then, a few issues later, and as you're seeing more of him, you see him on the phone with the president at his home, where his wife is cooking dinner and his kids are making a racket with their toys, and he's holding a child but also on the phone with the president.
Yeah, it's like,
and he's like, hey, did you figure all this out yet? And he's like, well, no, I haven't figured it out. He's like, oh, well, a lot of us don't have the luxury of not figuring things out. And he goes, okay, I'm sorry, I'll figure it out. Well, the president is in a home alone, just sort of watching the world happen. But then you see in one or two panels, they show his home. And it is, I mean, I felt like they were drawing my childhood home, right?
Yeah, huge.
I have two older brothers. My parents were working all the time. So the house was a mess always, but they were always cooking dinner and they were always working and they were always doing things. But we're going crazy thinking the world's all about us and they're dealing with all these things. There's toys everywhere. There's laundry. It's this claustrophobic mess that still feels homey somehow, the way that it's drawn. And in comparison to Kirby's house, which is just kind of a little messy and is still just generally cared for because Kirby takes care of it. And then Stella's house, which is, you know, she's like a bachelor life, right? She's just sort of throw clothes where they land, go to sleep, wake up, and crack a beer. But you see a lived-in home, and then you see him getting orders to do bad things and to hurt good people. And you get this moment that I never expected. You get this moment of redemption for Joe, where he's in the desert and he's supposed to be taking his kids out and like getting information to track down the lovers who are trying to change the world. And he just stops and he goes, you know what? Screw this. No, what have I become? I'm not a bag. And he just takes the keys out of the car and he walks away. He says, fine, get yourself safe, be good, go out, find a way to change the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, who gave you the right to give Joe a beautiful backstory and ribbon on his character arc?
Like we were saying earlier about how Stella's more about self-preservation, like protecting the family that she had. That's all that Joe was doing too, but he realized he was getting to a place of how violent he was going to have to become to protect his family. And he's like, there's a better way to do this.
And showing his family tells us why he was always monitoring Stella and had the gun to the cat. He felt like he had to protect his family. So everyone has these hidden struggles that you don't know about. And you make these instant judgments on them and you paint them as the bad guy when nobody thinks they're the bad guy. Everyone's going through their own struggles. And I think that was shown very beautifully in this story.
But there are some people who are pure evil, like the grandpa. I'm glad that they put the hammer down on that. Like some people, you deserve to know their stories. Some people suck. So
yeah.
I love all of the, I'm going to say camera angles, but the cinematography of the shots of like where they, every time they showed the grandpa, it's like, dark and he's like against the background and he like wears all white and he's like
melting or he's this grotesque thing.
His hair is ridiculous and his like eyes don't work and he's like whatever the president. You're like I hate this guy.
Yeah,
so good. And like his fortress, which is really just like a Greek house on top of a hill and it's like red rolling like trees and there's nothing and no one and you're like living it up.
The White House that is just this like evil building. Yeah.
It's a dome for his own protection.
Yeah.
Keep everybody out.
Yeah. And
isn't that a lovable grandfather figure?
He's like, what up?
Doesn't he just scream, I'm like a leader you can trust?
He's a dollop of evil whipped cream.
Yeah, so you see the White House or Capitol looking building, and then it zooms out, and you see that it is surrounded on all sides by this like forest of red trees, and it's actually like hundreds of feet tall and isolated. So of course it's like, oh yeah, he's the president. Of course he would live in the White House. Then they zoom out and they say, no, he has entirely secluded himself from the people and barricaded himself against them. Beautiful.
Were there other parts that you two had gone back and reread as well, either just for the art or for the monologue portion?
Charlie, real quick, I will say Kimberly Maggard says she loves the teacup. Of course, it wouldn't be a real book club without some tea going around. So,
this is my second time doing it, and I was like, something was missing. It was the tea.
I gotta say it because I'm obligated. But hi, Mom. Yeah, I mean, I've read the book like so many times, especially since I show it to like 12 people a day at work. Like, I just showed them the 2-page spread. I'm like, make your own choices, but this is the 2-page spread you need to see.
Yeah.
Just because it's good art. And we have, the art colleges downtown. So kids come in all the time, just like, I want inspiration. I'm like, oh, just look through these like 4 books.
I got it. I got you.
Yeah. So I've read it a lot. I read it as it was coming out. And then when the last issue dropped, I reread it start to finish. Then when the graphic novel came out, I read that. And then when they announced the movie script, I read that. And then I read it earlier today. So like I've read it a few times.
There's a scene or two you've reread.
It's a casual read.
Yeah. The art is unlike anything in any other book, like so good. So I'll just sometimes be like, oh, I remember this certain part that I want to reread. Kirby's dad versus Logan. Is that his name?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Logan Maximus. Yeah.
Yeah, where Kirby's dad is like, yeah, like I suck, but I know it, and you're like, oh,
yeah, and it's like if I'm gonna go down, let's make it a good one, right?
Yeah, and it's just such a good relationship. You don't have like that many paternal like relationships like that where it's just loving and honest and good, and it just works, and there's not really any conflict between them except for the fact that like Kirby didn't know a lot about his dad, and his dad didn't know a lot about Kirby, so like they just had a real relationship inside their real selves, which was nice.
The only real grinding you see between them is Kirby desperately trying to make his dad better, trying to get him to stop drinking.
Yeah,
my kombucha robot is specifically designed to not brew you beer for your own health.
Yeah.
I just came home and you were trying to rig it up to brew you beer. And it's very like, oh, ha, 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 but really, grab me a beer.
But for real, though.
How that manifests, that moment of, and again, I felt this felt very close to home. Dad saying, go grab me a beer real quick. That moment was like, yeah, I mean, we've all been there, right? Like, you've had somebody just be like, hey, go grab me a beer. And you're just like, yeah, I'm the little kid. That's my job. I'm the runner. I'm going to go grab you the remote, grab you the whatever. But what happens in that moment where it actually becomes a self-sacrifice, where it's his dad doing the bravest thing he's ever done because he has to let go of his son. Oh, my God. So, yeah, that moment I reread a couple times in a row, like their interaction with each other, and then the leading to, oh, there's a beep coming, someone's incoming, all right. And it's guised as like, oh, we're about to fight, go grab me a beer, I gotta get ready for this. But it really is, son, go. You have to wait. I'm only gonna hold you back, and I can buy you some time. Oh God, I'm getting chills just talking about it.
Yeah, great moment.
Because his dad being a veteran too, it was to a point where like he wasn't built anymore to be a caring dad. He was built to be a protector. Yeah, and exactly. So everything that was going on, I mean, there's this great bit where once they see on the TV that the cops are coming for them, they're probably outside right now. They get in the car and they bust through the house, like they bust through the garage to escape. And everybody's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But anyways, you could tell his dad is having a riot. Like, this is what I was made for. I was made for protecting people and fighting. I wasn't good at this home husband stuff. So. Yeah.
He bursts out of the garage and he's like legendary, and you're like,
yeah, legendary.
He's just like, all right, man, because he's pre-war. You know what I mean? He's older than everyone else. They live a different life, and it's cool because they really set the language apart between the two generations.
Yeah,
just by language alone, and it's really cool. But the book's so heavily anime inspired too. Like the scene where Stella's going down in the elevator, and then it's like all black except for her glasses. And you're like,
yeah.
With this, I know you mentioned this was going to be a movie. Would you rather see this? I know this isn't one of our questions, but would you rather see this in a more animated style then, or would you like it to be made with actual people?
I don't know. It's got such a good lesson. I mean, first of all, I don't want it to be whitewashed. That's something I'm really concerned about.
No. Yeah.
And I know that they wouldn't. Like, I feel like we're at a place where maybe we won't do that. It is a very anime colorful book. But I think doing a live action version of it, you could do something really cool with the set. Because it's a bright cyberpunk. We don't have a lot of those. It's most of my cyberpunks are very sad and annoying. And it's like I don't feel good about being there. Yeah. And you could do really cool things. And I think, I think a live action would be most appealing to the most broad people. And I would like the lesson of the book to be heard by the most people. So whatever is the most effective would be my goal.
So then they should go the Keanu Reeves Berserker route, where Netflix picked it up for a live action movie and an anime.
Yeah, just do both. Do both.
Just cover your bases.
Story and then do it right, and then do it really well. Yeah. Really quickly, I want to show the moment of them busting out of the garage, because I think it shows both the points we were talking about the sort of anime inspiration. It's this wild, wacky, and also his dad's just having a great time, right? Let me get this actually lined up in the shot. There we go. So yeah, the whole thing is this beautiful, wild, colorful ride. Kimberly asked us how long we've all been reading comics and graphic novels, which I think is a good question to sort of wrap things up on, because this story, as we were just talking about, has reminded us of a lot of other stuff. I really first I want to go to Lex. When did you first pick up Tradmore?
Tradmore, his first book, because he was a DeviantArt artist in 2006. But his first book, Strange Talent of Luther Strode, came out in 2008.
Okay.
I've read comics my whole life, so I don't remember a time I wasn't reading comics. And I went in to pick up Blackest Night 4 or something. Okay. And saw it it was the day that it came out. It was actually around my birthday. And I was like, I'm going to try this book out. And from that moment on, I have just got every Tradmore book that has ever come out up until now, which is why I have such a collection. Some of these are actually gifts. The cool thing about comics is it lets you give a really specific type of gift to someone. You know?
Yes.
If you know someone who loves Over the Garden Wall and also comic books, well, Cara McGee from Grand Rapids did the first couple volumes of the Over the Garden Wall comics.
Perfect.
They're from Grand Rapids?
Yeah, Cara's great. Yeah, Cara's
amazing.
Yeah. If you haven't read Black Canary, please read Black Canary. So I've been reading comics my whole life, and I've read Tradmore since their entire career from start to now. So, just forever, I guess, since they existed.
Carly?
I don't read comics. No.
Okay. Good talk. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye. No. For me, more specifically, I will admit I have been doing a lot more manga than comics as of lately, but I would say just a very long time, and I think that appreciation for the comics too. I really enjoy the costume design aspect of it. I think actually for even a lot of questions for this book, I just talked about how much I love the outfits. Everything down from how they all dressed for the club. Kirby's amazing
style. How have we not talked about it already?
Yes, Stella goes in with this gorgeous face paint. Kirby's I'm gonna be some kind of sexy gothic pirate rogue, and
I saw both of their outfits going to the party as very beautiful homages to their culture and their past, because we don't get to know a lot about either of their pasts, but the way they present themselves, Kirby has a sexy samurai outfit almost. It's
that's right. It's more samurai. Yes.
Yeah. And then Stella has this almost war paint on. It's this very beautiful skull kind of with lines. It has a very cool There a lot of golden neckbands, and
Yes.
I don't know, they just felt like they were both like paying homage to their ancestry without being like overt about it or without being in your face. It's just like, I want to dress up and I want to feel good, so I'm going to feel proud of who I am. And I thought that was very cool.
And that's like I was mentioning too. It just reminded me of all the characters I've enjoyed reading comics and manga for. Like, it made me aspire to be even weirder, you know?
Weirder and weirder stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fashion in comics is one of my favorite reasons to read comics.
Absolutely.
I mean, Snot Girl, Princess Jellyfish.
Oh, yes.
It's Tokyo Tadeba Girls. You know, manga has a lot of great fashion in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love fashion, so I was all about it.
What about you, Caleb?
I have been taking in nerdy content longer than I have been reading comics. I've always loved the worlds of comic books, but as a kid, I grew up in a sports family. My dad played baseball his whole life. Both of my older brothers played baseball their whole lives. So I did theater instead. So
Nice.
I was always doing my own thing. And I never had a comic book. I never got to go to a comic book store or got to get my hands on comic books. So I was watching Teen Titans religiously and Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. And so I was always taking in all of these stories. One of my favorites is Shaolin Showdown. And it seems very, very comic booky, even though it doesn't have a base in comics. But I was always so fascinated by the high fantasy and the future tech, the retro futurism kind of stuff. I've always loved all those different styles, but had to take them in from movies and TV shows and things like that. And it wasn't until I moved out and had my first job and had my own disposable income and was able to actually go to a comic book store, walk in and say, hey, I love all this stuff, but I've never even picked one up. Can you fix that for me? That was probably 5 years ago. So I'm still very young in the comics game, but I feel like an old nerd soul, you know?
Isn't it funny, too? You start reading comics and you're like, oh, they're only like $3 an issue. What a cheap hobby. And then, then years down the road, you're like, food or comics.
Yeah.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
If you liked the New World, this is for everybody. Yeah. If you liked the New World, what comic or manga or graphic novel would you send someone to next? You know, if someone picks this up in our store for 15% off until the end of the month, what up?
Or on the web store, vaultedmidnight.shop, just saying.
What up? If you got this book and you really enjoyed it, where would you go next? And it can be off the wall, you know, from any connection to any connection, manga, graphic novel, comics, albums.
I've got one that is kind of off the wall. And at first glance, I don't know why it made me think of this. And then the more I thought about it, the more it kind of made sense. It's an all ages book. It's called Snapdragon. And it also does an amazing job at developing characters without force feeding you information about them and just giving you the person and letting you watch them be that person. And I think the main reason that I thought about that is, now that I'm realizing it, I think Stella is just grown-up Snapdragon. I think this is just, in my headcanon, Snapdragon grows up and has a little bit of magic powers and is, you know, in the situation, and is this similar kind of person where has the ability to do horrible things and hurt people, chooses not to because they are a good person and is actively attempting to put good into a bad world, you know? So Snapdragon is, it's a beautiful story about a young girl who discovers that the local witch is the town witch who kills dogs and eats them is actually a beautiful soul who cares for hurt animals and performs taxidermy on roadkill and stuff. So she's got this, and yes, is also a witch, but you know, that's beside the point. I would think Snapdragon for the character development, for the beautiful amount of representation for a bunch of different people shown cohesively without it being a crux of the story. It's not why they're telling the story. There are different people in this story, and that's how the world is.
Perfect.
Carly, what do you think? Oh, Carly throws up on us.
Carly is thinking a lot.
Very deep in thought.
They'll be back. I'm not worried about it.
All right, Lex, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you're looking for, they're back. Oh, what an upgrade! What an upgrade! Totally worth waiting for.
There was a cat in the wires. I apologize.
Don't apologize.
That's part of it. Did your cat read the story?
Yeah, she was mentioning. She's like, "Let me talk about it. I had a favorite part."
Tell it. Yeah, no, whatever works for you. Rec a book. It's up to you.
I was actually going to go with, I think Caleb's heard me talk about this one quite a bit. It's called Banned Book Club from Kim Hyun-suk. Have you gotten to read that one, Lex?
Yeah, it's really good.
It's so good. So this one is about, I think it's in the early 1980s that it's a part of. And I have it pulled up over here. It has our main character, Kim, starting college and during South Korea's Fifth Republic. So there are quite a few military regimes brought up during this story. There are, she finds herself in a book club for school, not realizing that it is a banned book club. And there's kind of this stigma about kids going to college during this time, being like, kids are only going to college right now to protest. And
oh no.
She's like, oh no, that's the worst thing that could happen. But in that sense, it was, because parents are like, they don't know, these kids don't know what real problems are. These kids have no idea how good they have it now. They're just protesting for the heck of it. Sound familiar? But it's such a good read. It's about, again, fighting against a system that just because things could be worse doesn't mean you can't fight for what's bad right now. And she starts, Kim Hyun-suk starts off the book with not having a lot of confidence in herself and saying, well, I'll join the book club, but I won't do this for protest. And she finally finds enough courage in herself to form her own opinions, form her own identity. There's a little bit of romance, but it's not important. What's important is about her building herself up as a character. And also there's just, again, delightful side characters on the side as well. Just like with this book, we have a girl whose whole personality is she punches cops. So
it's a good personality.
It's a great personality to have. And it's an all ages book, actually. I would probably put it more towards like 15 and up, most likely. But it's something I would recommend if you found yourself thinking, yeah, let's fight the system. But I want to read a book first.
I want to read a book first. Exactly that. For a more mainstream approach, if you want to read more Treadmore, I highly recommend Silver Surfer Black.
Oh, yeah.
Even my dad likes this book. That's my review on it every time. I have little sticky notes like, even my dad likes this.
That's awesome. That.
And then for something a little bit weirder and a little bit more adult, since we've recommended a bunch of all ages books, if you don't mind a little bit of blood, I'm a big fan of Little Bird. This is the second printing.
Little Bird.
This is the Treadmore cover. Ian Bertram actually does all of the art, interior and exterior. It's written by Darcy Van Polkes, who's a wonderful screenwriter. We have graphic novels at all those midnight locations. This book's incredible. It is a very cyberpunky, very heavy story, very action, very gory. But if you're looking for more along this feeling of smashing, the patriarchy, which is great. This book is heavy, but very good, very, very good. So those would be my two big suggestions.
I've only heard good things about Little Bird too. I know it's got to be up there on all of our reading lists.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite books ever. So,
well, to wrap things up, I just wanted to real quick say, Lex, Barbara Clark has said, "Great to see you," and we will call it there. Just so everybody knows, if you didn't get the name, this is The New World. Lex has got some original single issues. The New World by ALES KOT and Trad Moore. It is an amazing book about romance and love in a dystopian cyber tech future and about smashing the system of oppression. It's incredible. It's got action. It's got love. It's got comedy. It has some amazing, amazing artwork. This is our Book of the Month Club. We do it every last Sunday of every month. We always talk about whatever the next month's book is. We will be announcing Carly, do you know next month's Book of the Month?
Oh, I do. Is it Ghostwriter?
Yes.
Does that sound right? That's the one, the red book with the black handprint on the front?
That's right. You're right.
Yes.
You heard it here first, folks. Next month's book of the month is Ghostwriter. You can get it at any Vault of Midnight shop, 15% off while supplies last, while the month lasts.
And we are saying Ghost Writer and not Writer.
Writer. Yes, Ghost Writer. Yes. Ghostwriter may make an appearance. I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
We have no idea.
You can, for a little bit longer, get this book. If you liked what you heard, you can get The New World at any Vault of Midnight location, Detroit, Grand Rapids, or Ann Arbor. Or you can head on to the vaultofmidnight.shop and check out our entire inventory. All 3 stores now have their web stores active, and you can get the book shipped to yourself. You can get it purchased in store. You can get curbside, whatever you're comfortable with. We just want to make sure you guys get some cool books. Any closing remarks?
No, it was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. It was great to have a resident Tradmore expert in the house. It definitely
Thank goodness. Yes.
So thank you guys all for watching. We are signing off. Catch you next month. See you on Thursday for Vault of Knowledge Trivia. Bye.
Bye, everyone.